Hi there, I'm Peter from Moxels Agency, and today we're going to meet one of our largest clients right here in Manchester. We're going to meet the marketing manager, and he's going to explain us all the good things that they do right there, which help their company to become a multi-million brand. So we're going to talk about marketing, we're going to talk about advertising, visual identity, design, and all these things that help their company grow. If you want to grow your company as well, if you want to create a large brand, you need to follow this. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, this is Peter from Moxels Agency, and I'm here right now with Dan Mounsey, the marketing manager at Hills Panel Products, and we're going to explore the ins and outs of all marketing at HPP. So Dan, thanks for coming to our show.
Thank you for asking me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dan, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Dan Mounsey?
So I'm the marketing manager here at Hills Panel Products. I've been the marketing manager here for about 10 years. I was born and educated in Oldham, so that's why I feel like I have a real close connection to the business and the community as well.
Now, how did you end up with HPP, and how did you decide to take on this marketing position, which bears the responsibility of a whole brand?
So the first time I worked for Hills Panels was about the year 2000. My next door neighbour at the time was sales director here. I was at university, and we just got talking, and he basically offered me some summer work. So I just came in doing some casual work, updating information on the database, things like that. And then the course I was on was a sandwich course. So after the first 2 years of studying, I had the opportunity to do a placement year at a business. So I stayed in touch with the sales director at that point. We had a chat, and he offered me the chance to do my placement here, which was a great success from my point of view and from the company's point of view as well. So I went back to university for a year, and then after I graduated, again still in touch with the business, and they offered me a job basically. So straight out of university in 2004, I started working full time here. Then how I ended up in the role as marketing manager. Probably as much by accident rather than design. The business at the time was a lot smaller than it is now, and it had no marketing function whatsoever. There was a sales department, and they did bits and pieces of marketing. But I think as the company was growing, there's sort of an acknowledgement that it needed a more formal marketing function to support that growth. I'd done a business studies degree. In that there was modules of marketing. I'd enjoyed those, so it was obviously we had a chat, and it made sense that I sort of would take on the role of marketing, and it's just evolved from there really. When I joined the business, I think the turnover was about £5 million, employing about 50 people. That's grown to about £35 million now. We employ about 210 people, and the market department itself has grown from myself working on my own to myself plus 4 other people now, so there's 5 of us.
Can you tell us a little bit more about HPP, where and how people can find you?
Yeah, so HPP was established in 1991. We've got Stephen and Martin, who are the owners of the business. They've got a background in the timber industry. They saw a gap in the market to supply more panel-based products, so chipboard. Initially, with just one building, one saw doing a very small amount of processing. And then it's just grown from there, really. Initially the area of operation was primarily the northwest of England. But that's over the years has gradually grown now to the point where we're operating nationwide. We have a fleet of 24 vehicles that cover our own vehicles delivered to Newcastle in the north and Birmingham to the south. And again, over the last few years, that's grown to be pretty much nationwide now by using third-party carriers. So we use a palletised distribution service, which enables us to distribute our products anywhere in the UK next day. Our products primarily go into kitchen and bedroom, so we operate in the KBB sector, which is the kitchen, bedroom and bathroom sector, but most of our products primarily going into kitchens and bedrooms.
We've noticed that you are very engaged with the local community, you invest in the local people here, and you also join different social causes to help the local community. So what drives you and HPP to get engaged with the local community, and and help the people around, and so much more than any other company in the Northwest.
I wouldn't say it was necessarily fair to say that we do that more than anybody else in the Northwest, but it's certainly true that we do try and engage with the local community. I think for a few reasons, really. Most of our employees live and come from the local community, so it makes sense from that point of view. The local community supported us with our growth and helped us to get where we are. And also thinking in broader terms, as we grow as a business, we need talent to help us grow. And the best source of that is likely to be the local community. So things like where we're getting involved in Madlow, which is the local youth centre here, that gives us an opportunity to meet local people, to meet younger people, give them exposure to what working life is, and hopefully help them get on that path. And I think it's also fair to say that Oldham has a lot of negative press associated with it and has done for quite some time. And I think we're quite keen to show that yeah, it does have challenges, there's no question about that, but equally it does have success stories. HPP is an example of a success story coming out of Oldham, but I go and meet other local businesses, local business people, and see what's going on, and it's just really surprising when you get out there and speak to people. There's businesses in Oldham that are doing all sorts of stuff that you wouldn't imagine that they were doing, and stuff that's going out into Europe and worldwide. It's quite eye-opening, really.
You're in charge of the company brand. And we know that a brand is not just about what's visually seen, but also about the people behind it. So how did you manage to create this company culture? How do you nurture it? And how do you manage that, especially in situations of stress?
I think in our team, the company culture is particularly about collaboration and empowerment. They're the two big things that we focus on. I think it's really important that everybody in the team sort of understands what we're doing, but maybe more importantly, why we're doing it. So that really should give them just the information that they need to make the decisions that they need to get work finished, really. I think we achieved that through quite a lot of talking, really. Obviously in the office, we sit quite close together, so we're always talking. But I think it's also important that you take time out to talk as a team, to talk about what everybody's doing. I think certainly within our team, there's 5 of us, but everyone's got different strengths, and I think the scope for when we all talk, the scope for synergies is fantastic. We can really help, bouncing ideas off each other and making suggestions and looking at each other's work and suggesting. So I think that's what we try and promote, really. And then in times of stress, yeah, I think it's a similar thing, really. It's just making sure that you're communicating with each other. I try and sort of look over the team and sort of pick up the signs, if people are getting stressed or bogged down with the work. But I do think it's just creating that environment where people, if they're feeling stressed or whatever, can put their hand up and just say, look, I'm feeling the pressure here, can you help me out, or is this fine, or is that? I generally find that most of the time what they're stressed about is not really an issue, it's more them worrying about things that aren't actually that important, or if you just look, let's just take a step back from that and it's all fine. I think that's worked really well for us. Clearly there are times when it can get more stressful when the work seems to be coming in, but I think because we've created an environment where we all sort of do talk and do trust each other, I think that really helps. So there isn't really any onus on one person to take all the pressure. I think it's really good to see sometimes that when we are in a situation where there's a heavy workload, that we're all able to chip in and maybe try and share that workload if we can, because that's the sort of relationship that we've produced, really. And I think for long term, that's the only real environment that can flourish, really. When everybody sort of is on board with what you're doing, knows why they're doing it, and is comfortable, to make the decisions, empowered to make the decisions themselves, really.
Now, branding-wise, and the big question is, what's your why? Why does HPP do what it does?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. A lot of people say that we must be mad to do what we do. We're unique in the marketplace in that no one else offers the same range of products and services under one roof. Obviously, we have lots of competition. What we like doing is delivering solutions to our customers, and it's really a challenge basically coming up with those solutions, and also keeping them relevant, keeping them evolving with the marketplace. the sector that we work in is quite dynamic and has got increasingly more dynamic. So I think the why we do it is just the challenge, really, the thrill of sort of coming up with new solutions, keeping up with the evolving market, and basically giving customers what they want.
And what are the main challenges in today's digital world? How do you manage to cut through all the noise and stay on top?
I think the digital world presents quite a lot of challenges, for a business like us and any business really. I think you've got the obvious things like social media. For us, it's a particular challenge because our industry isn't particularly advanced in terms of social media use. But obviously there's a consciousness that we need to be involved in social media. I still don't think we've quite got that right, but I think we're probably in a better place than we have been. It's not like a retail environment where social media is the ways to add value to your business for using social media are much more obvious. For us, it's much more difficult. I think it's more about just using those vehicles to have an opportunity to push the brand, basically expose the brand to the outside world. And I think in terms of content, digital gives us real good opportunities to create our own content, good content. But also what we've seen is that a lot of the big manufacturers that we'll buy product from are increasingly creating more and more content, which is good in a way, but also bad in the sense that just the volume of content that exists is just so much now. Trying to separate the good stuff from the bad stuff or the indifferent stuff can be a challenge, but again, that's quite a positive thing for us because that gives us an opportunity. Actually, I think that's what we can be good at. We can take in a lot of content from our suppliers, which may be foreign or whatever, and repackage the content really in a way that we feel it can be best processed by our customers. So that's a thing that we can do pretty well. And then finally, I think for us, getting the balance right between being an online business and not being an offline business, if you like, is I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but it's something to be aware of. Online is really important for us, but we're also very keen not to just become a faceless online operation, really. So we still have the sales office, we still have the sales reps who go out on the road, we still have people can phone in if they've got any questions. But equally, the reality is that people are choosing online over offline through choice. So we need to put pour our efforts into making sure that's as it should be. But equally, we are keen to not lose that interaction between us and the customers, because at the end of the day, customer service is crucial for us. As a business, we operate, we're 100% business to business. So all our transactions, they're not transaction relationships, they're all relationships, long-term relationships we build with customers. So human interaction is a big part of that, and we're keen to make sure that it maintains a big part of that, but also at the same time giving our customers the digital tools that they want really to enable them to run their businesses in the way that they see fit.
Now let's talk about branding. Can you walk us a little bit through the process of creating your brand's visual identity?
That's quite a tricky question to answer. Our brand visual identity is something that's evolved a lot. I suppose with a lot of businesses, you sort of look back at old stuff and think, wow, that looks really old. And I think with us that's even more the case. And I think if you go back 10, 15 years, whatever, when I first started around the business, the visual identity wasn't that important. Yes, we had a logo and we had corporate colours and this, that, and the other. But primarily our customers just wanted to be a distributor, which was fine, and the brand wasn't as important then. But I think as time's moved on, so I think that's why it's been important over the past few years that we've really ramped up our visual identity. So people recognise us more, have more trust in us, but also can take our visual identity and use it in their business as well. And that's a side where CGI has really helped us. When we first started doing the visual identity thing, really, CGI was in its infancy. And photography was still a big thing, and it was very difficult because it's very expensive, it's very time consuming. It takes you have to have the product physically in place before you can do any of that. Whereas CGI has enabled us to get you to do stuff without physically having the product, but also to make things a lot more consistent, a lot more cost effective, and a lot easier, quicker, basically streamline the whole process.
And do you have any tips for creating a good marketing strategy that has brought HPP its success?
Creating strategies are always quite a difficult thing to do, I think. In terms of tips, I could think of a few things really. One is listen to your customers. As we've grown, a lot of our customers have grown with us. I think it's fair to say that a lot of the best ideas that we've had, certainly in marketing terms, have come through speaking to customers. So that's a really good one, is making sure that you're listening to your customers, because ultimately they're the people who are going to buy your products, I guess. Another one I'd say is don't get too bogged down in what other people are doing. We have a lot of competition, as you can probably imagine, like most businesses do. And it's very easy to sort of look at company A's doing this or company B's doing that, and it's fine, and you should be aware about that. And that might be the right thing for them. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing for you. So I think it's good that you should stick to your own path, really. Another thing I would say is monitor what you're doing, and don't be afraid to change it. The reality is we live in a dynamic world, and strategies, trying to fix a strategy for 3 to 5 years is a good thing to do, but you should definitely monitor that and make sure that it's still relevant, as the months and years go by. And then finally, I'd say just have confidence in what you're doing. I think if you planned your strategy, you should be confident. If you're not confident in your own strategy, then the chances of other people buying into it are limited, really.
Lastly, what would you say to the people watching at home and who may be worried about the current and future social, political, economic uncertainties?
That's obviously a very big question to answer. I think, uncertainty is something that seems to be a constant in the world at the moment. I think that's probably a key point, that we're living in uncertain times. And I think in that, the message there is that you need to be aware of the uncertainties, but not necessarily let them get in the way of what you want to do. You need to, I guess, analyse what's going on. People know their individual businesses best. Think about, what could happen and the implications of what uncertainty, whether it be Brexit or whatever, what implications of different outcomes might have. But equally, I think that, uncertainty seems to be a constant thing, like I say now, so you can't let it get in the way of what you want to do. Otherwise I think there's a risk that you end up getting nowhere if you're waiting for certain times. I'm not sure that they're ever going to be. Certainly in the short to medium term, things aren't going to be that certain. And again, really, so you just need to press on with what you're doing.
Dan, thanks for joining us today and explaining all the good stuff here at HPP, and we're looking forward to see you again.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I enjoyed the interview. Hope someone finds it useful.
Thanks again. I was Peter, your host of Moxels show, and I'm looking to see you guys in the next episode.